In the vast tapestry of Middle Eastern history, narratives emerge that transcend time, shaping beliefs, traditions, and identities that resonate to this day. Among these narratives are the stories of the 12 tribes of Ishmael and the 12 tribes of Israel, descendants of Abraham, a central figure to Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions. But why are these stories so important? What do they teach us about the past and present? In this video, we will explore how divine promises made to Abraham unfolded into distinct destinies for his sons, Ishmael and Isaac, and how these lineages gave rise to communities that have profoundly influenced culture, religion, and geopolitics over the centuries. Imagine that from a single family, two lineages emerge that spread throughout the world, influencing millions of people. It's fascinating, isn't it? This is precisely the story of the tribes of Ishmael and Israel. Get ready to dive into this epic narrative, where divine promises and human conflicts intertwine. In this video, you will discover how these tribes came to be, what their historical roles were, and how they shaped the history of the Middle East and the three largest monotheistic religions in the world. And stay tuned, because we will also uncover the meanings of the tribes' names, as well as exploring their geographic and cultural connections. Before we move on, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way you don't miss any of our videos that dive deep into topics like this. And of course, leave your like to help us reach more people with historical and reflective content. Now let's continue our journey. To understand the origin of the 12 tribes of Ishmael and Israel, we need to go back to the roots of this narrative, which begins with Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar. These three figures are central to the history of Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, and their choices have shaped the destinies of generations. Abraham, initially called Abram, is a figure venerated as the father of faith. He is known for his unique relationship with God, marked by promises and challenges. Despite receiving the divine promise that he would be the father of a great nation, Abraham faced years of uncertainty due to the sterility of his wife, Sarah. This period of waiting was a test of faith for the couple and the starting point for the events that would give rise to the two lineages. Sarah, Abraham's wife, faced the stigma of infertility at a time when motherhood was seen as essential for women. Driven by frustration and the desire to fulfill the divine promise, Sarah proposed a solution that would alter the course of history. She asked Abraham to have a son with her Egyptian servant, Hagar. Hagar, chosen to be the mother of Abraham's firstborn, conceived Ishmael, but her position in the family brought conflict. After becoming pregnant, Hagar began to be treated harshly by Sarah, which led her to flee to the desert. At that moment, divine intervention was decisive. An angel found Hagar, assuring her that her son, Ishmael, would have a great destiny as the father of a great nation. Ishmael's birth marked the beginning of the fulfillment of God's promises to Abraham, but it also highlighted the family tensions that would persist throughout the generations. God promised Abraham that Ishmael would be blessed and give rise to 12 princes, forming a powerful and influential people. Despite the birth of Ishmael, God reaffirmed to Abraham that Sarah would also be a mother, even in her old age. This promise seemed impossible, but it was fulfilled with the birth of Isaac, consolidating the divine promise and dividing Abraham's lineages into two distinct paths. Ishmael, the first son of Abraham, occupies a crucial role in the 12 tribes narrative. Its story, marked by divine blessings and personal challenges, is fundamental to understanding the origins of one of the most influential peoples in the Middle East. Ishmael's birth was an important milestone for Abraham, who for years awaited the divine promise of numerous descendants. However, its conception also brought intense conflicts between Sarah and Hagar. After Hagar became pregnant, tensions grew, culminating in her fleeing into the desert, where she was found by an angel of God. At that moment, the promise that Ishmael would give rise to a great nation was revealed. God reassured Abraham that Ishmael would be blessed, becoming the father of 12 princes. Despite not being the son through whom God's primary covenant would be established, Ishmael received a special promise that would solidify his position as the founder of a prosperous people. According to the biblical account, Ishmael had 12 children who gave rise to the so-called tribes of Ishmael. These tribes settled in strategic regions of the Arabian Peninsula, controlling trade routes and building communities that shaped the history of the region. Each tribe carries a name with a unique meaning, reflecting geographic or cultural characteristics of the time. Ishmael's tribes occupied a vast territory, including parts of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Yemen. Their strategic location on trade routes allowed them to play an essential role in cultural and economic exchange between ancient civilizations. Ishmael has a central role in Islamic tradition, being considered a prophet and the ancestor of the Arab tribes. Furthermore, his participation in the construction of the Kaaba, the holiest site in Islam, together with Abraham, deeply connects him to the Islamic faith. Isaac, the second son of Abraham, is a central figure in the biblical narrative. His birth represents the direct fulfillment of the divine promise made to Abraham and Sarah, being considered the heir of the sacred covenant between God and Abraham's descendants. The birth of Isaac is described as a miraculous event. Sarah, who was barren and past her childbearing age, gave birth after God renewed his promise to Abraham. When she heard the news, Sarah laughed, which gave rise to the name Isaac, which in Hebrew means laughter. This act symbolizes not only joy, but also the reaffirmation that nothing is impossible for God. Unlike Ishmael, who received a blessing to form a great nation, Isaac was chosen to be the heir of the divine covenant. This covenant included the promise that his offspring would inherit the promised land, a territory central to Jewish and Christian tradition. God reaffirmed several times that it would be through Isaac that Abraham's lineage would be blessed, preparing the way for the formation of the people of Israel. Isaac's role as father of Jacob, later called Israel, and Esau was fundamental to the unfolding of the tribes of Israel. He continued the tradition of fidelity to God, transmitting the divine covenant to the next generation. Although he had a less dramatic life than that of Abraham and Jacob, his stability and faith were essential to consolidate the divine promise. Although Isaac and Ishmael were brothers, their stories followed different paths. After the separation of Hagar and Ishmael, Isaac remained with Abraham and Sarah, growing up as the son of promise. However, the Bible reports that both came together to bury Abraham, suggesting a connection of respect between the lineages despite the differences. Isaac's importance lies not only in his individual role, but in his legacy. He was the father of Jacob, who gave rise to the 12 tribes of Israel. Each tribe played a unique role in the formation of the people of Israel and the Judeo-Christian sacred narrative. Isaac established the basis for the formation of the tribes of Israel, but it was through his son Jacob that the divine promise was fully manifested. Abraham, the patriarch of the Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, received divine promises that unfolded differently between his two sons, Ishmael and Isaac. This division not only shaped their lineages, but also influenced the religious and cultural history of entire peoples. Ishmael, Abraham's firstborn, was blessed with the promise that his descendants would be numerous and form a great nation. The name Ishmael itself, which means God will hear, reflects divine intervention in his life and his importance in God's greater plan. Ishmael's tribe settled mainly in the Arabian Peninsula and adjacent regions, playing a central role in the region's trade and culture. His lineage is deeply connected to Islamic traditions, in which Ishmael is considered a prophet and an ancestor of the Arab tribes. Isaac, on the other hand, was designated as the son through whom the divine covenant would be fulfilled. This covenant included specific promises: the formation of a people chosen by God, the inheritance of the promised land, a crucial territory for the development of the tribes of Israel, a lineage that would culminate in messianic events, according to Judeo-Christian traditions. While Ishmael is remembered as the father of a great nation, Isaac represents the continuation of God's direct covenant with Abraham, with spiritual and territorial implications that shape the tribes of Israel. The promises reflect different destinations. Ismael, his descent was settled in broad desert lands, including parts of present-day Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Yemen. Isaac, their descendants, the tribes of Israel, were destined for a specific territory, known as the Promised Land, which encompasses parts of present-day Israel, Palestine, Jordan, and Lebanon. Although divine promises recognize the importance of both, the biblical narrative highlights tensions between the two lineages. The rivalry began in Abraham's own house between Sarah and Hagar, and was perpetuated throughout the generations, influencing social, cultural, and religious dynamics. No Judaism and Christianity. Isaac is seen as the heir of the divine covenant, being central to the narratives of salvation and promise. No Islam. Ishmael is revered as a prophet and one of the founders of Islam's holiest shrine, the Kaaba, in Mecca. The 12 tribes of Ishmael, mentioned in the Bible, are the founders of communities that played a central role in the history and culture of the Middle East. Descendants of Abraham's firstborn, these tribes represent the fulfillment of the divine promise that Ishmael would be the father of a great nation. Their names and meanings carry traces of their cultural, geographic, and spiritual identity. God promised Abraham that Ishmael would give rise to 12 princes, each founding a distinct tribe. These tribes became protagonists across vast regions, settling mainly in the Arabian Peninsula and adjacent areas. They controlled important trade routes and left a cultural impact that persists to this day. Ishmael's 12 sons, whose names reflect characteristics and values of their time, are listed in the Bible in Genesis 25 verses 12 to 18. Each name carries a symbolic and geographical meaning. Nebayat means heights and suggests occupation of strategic mountainous regions. Meat, related to dark or black, possibly reflecting characteristics of the territory or tribe. Adbeel may mean discipline of God, indicating a spiritual connection. Mibsan, translated as pleasant fragrance, symbolizing blessings or abundance. Mass means carry or burden, possibly associated with trade or tribe resistance. Complex, associated with noise or cry, reflecting a vibrant or outgoing tribe. Related to desert or south, indicating the geographic location in the arid interior of Arabia. It is throne, means to surround, suggesting a tribe that occupied large or mobile territories. Elegant, linked to abundance or wealth, associated with the prosperity of the tribe. Stay, it can be translated as Orient, pointing to the geographical location to the east. Ismaili tribes played an essential role in trade, connecting civilizations through routes such as the incense route. They facilitated the exchange of products, ideas, and cultures between the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia. In Islamic tradition, Ishmael is revered as a prophet and ancestor of several Arab tribes. He is also linked to the construction of the Kaaba in Mecca, along with Abraham, solidifying his religious relevance. Although Ishmael is recognized as the ancestor of several Arab tribes, it is important to highlight that not all Arabs are direct descendants of Ishmael. Ethnic diversity in the region is vast, and other Semitic peoples also played important roles in shaping Arab cultures. The tribes of Ishmael formed a powerful and strategic lineage. But what about the 12 tribes of Israel, descendants of Isaac? The 12 tribes of Israel are descendants of the 12 sons of Jacob, also known as Israel, son of Isaac and grandson of Abraham. These tribes form the basis of the people of Israel, playing an essential role in the biblical narrative, Jewish identity, and the development of religious traditions. The journey of the 12 tribes begins with Jacob, who had his name changed by God to Israel, which means he who fights with God or God prevails. Jacob had 12 sons, each with unique characteristics and stories, which gave rise to the tribes. These tribes became the foundations of the Israelite communities, establishing themselves in the Promised Land. Each son of Jacob gave rise to a tribe, and their names are mentioned frequently in the scriptures. They represent not only people, but also territories and spiritual legacies. Reuben, the firstborn, lost his leadership position due to dishonorable actions. Simeon, known for his role in revenge episodes, such as the Shechem massacre. Levi, the priestly tribe, without territory of its own, dedicated to the service of God. Judah, prominent in Jewish history, where the royal lineage and the Messiah came from. Associated with justice, but also with episodes of idolatry. Naphtali, known for her speed and courage, compared to a loose gazelle. Look, he stood out for his strength and bravery in battles. Asher, tribe blessed with abundance and prosperity. Issachar represents hard work and strength in its biblical description. Zebulun, associated with maritime trade and coastal prosperity. Joseph, divided into two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh, in recognition of Joseph's role in Egypt. Benjamin, tribe of warriors which maintained an important role in the history of Israel. The distribution of the Promised Land among the tribes was a crucial event in the history of Israel. Each tribe was given a specific territory, except Levi, who was designated to serve as the priestly tribe, with cities distributed among the other tribes. From where kings like David and, later, Jesus Christ, recognized in Christianity as the Messiah, emerged divided between Ephraim and Manasseh. It represented Israel's prosperity and leadership. The 12 tribes played central roles in events such as the conquest of the Promised Land, the period of the Judges, and the formation of the Kingdom of Israel and Judah. They are also important symbols in prophecy, representing the unity and diversity of the Jewish people. The stories of the 12 tribes of Ishmael and Israel not only shaped the history of the Middle East, but also played pivotal roles in the development of the world's three major monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Although these tribes followed different paths, their common origins in Abraham created a deep link between these traditions. In Judaism, the 12 tribes of Israel are central to the identity of the Jewish people. They symbolize the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham and the continuity of the divine covenant. Some important aspects include: to the Promised Land, the territorial inheritance given to each tribe is seen as part of the sacred covenant. Levi's spiritual importance. As a priestly tribe, Levi was designated to lead the service of God, highlighting the centrality of faith and obedience to divine laws. The Messiah and Judah. The prophecy that the Messiah would come from the tribe of Judah directly connects divine promises to the redemption of the Jewish people. In Christianity, the 12 tribes of Israel have an expanded meaning. The Christian narrative connects the Old and New Testaments, highlighting the role of Jesus Christ. Identified as the Lion of the tribe of Judah, Jesus is seen as the promised descendant, uniting the prophecies of the tribes with the plan of salvation for all humanity. Some Christian traditions interpret tribes as spiritual representations, symbolizing different characteristics and virtues of the church. In Islam, Ismael is considered a prophetic figure and ancestor of several Arab tribes. Its history is intrinsically linked to the Islamic faith, especially through its link with the Kaaba. In Mecca, Ismael, along with Abraham, is credited with rebuilding Islam's holiest shrine, marking its spiritual relevance. Islamic genealogy frequently connects Muhammad to Ishmael, reinforcing the importance of Ishmael's tribes in Islamic tradition. Ishmael's tribes were fundamental to the cultural, commercial, and religious expansion in the Arabian Peninsula. The tribes of Ishmael and Israel, despite their distinct promises, often crossed paths. Some of these interactions generated territorial rivalries. Land ownership and survival in the desert have created historical conflicts between these communities. Despite tensions, the tribes also shared trade routes and cultural practices, enriching the history of the Middle East. The narratives of these tribes illustrate how a common origin can generate distinct but interconnected destinies. Abraham is a point of unity for the three great religious traditions, and their lineages continue to influence global faith, politics, and culture. The 12 tribes of Ishmael and Israel not only shaped the identity of their people, but also played crucial roles in trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange in the Middle East and beyond. His contributions range from economics to religious traditions, leaving a legacy that spans centuries. The tribes descended from Ishmael had a significant impact on the commercial development of the Arabian Peninsula. The Ismaili tribes controlled strategic trade routes, connecting southern Arabia with the Mediterranean and Mesopotamia. Products such as spices, frankincense, and myrrh passed through their lands, enriching the tribes and strengthening their role as cultural mediators. Through trade, Ishmael's tribes disseminated practices, ideas, and traditions, facilitating interaction between civilizations. Cities like Mecca, linked to these tribes, became not only commercial centers but also religious ones. The tribes of Israel, established in the Promised Land, formed communities with strong cultural and religious cohesion. The Promised Land was rich in natural resources, and the tribes of Israel prospered by cultivating the land and trading with neighboring peoples. Jerusalem, situated in the territory of the tribe of Judah, became a spiritual and cultural center for the Israelite tribes, and later, for global Judaism. The tribes of Israel contributed to the composition of biblical texts that continue to influence religious traditions around the world. The tribes of Ishmael and Israel interacted frequently throughout history, whether in commercial partnerships or territorial rivalries. The strategic location of Ishmael's tribes on Arab trade routes connected Israelite communities with other peoples, such as Egyptians and Babylonians. Although records indicate disputes between the descendants of Ishmael and Israel, there were also moments of alliance and peaceful coexistence. Both lineages influenced great ancient civilizations. The Ismaili tribes laid the foundations for what would later become Arab civilization, shaping cultural, linguistic, and religious aspects. From the period of the Judges until the reign of David and Solomon, the tribes of Israel played significant roles in regional relations, trading with peoples such as the Philistines, Phoenicians, and Assyrians. Despite their differences, the cultural and historical contributions of the tribes of Ishmael and Israel are complementary. While the Ismailis dominated trade routes and spread cultural influences through Islam, the Israelites left a profound spiritual and literary heritage that impacts millions to this day. The stories of the 12 tribes of Ishmael and the 12 tribes of Israel transcend the boundaries of time, echoing to this day as a symbol of faith, identity, and human connection. More than historical accounts, these narratives carry lessons of perseverance, diversity, and the complex relationship between destiny and choice. Today, the legacy of these tribes can be found in religious traditions, social structures, and cultural debates. The historical rivalries and connections between the lineages of Ishmael and Israel continue to influence political, diplomatic, and spiritual discussions. More than ever, these stories offer opportunities for mutual understanding and dialogue between peoples. Did you enjoy exploring this incredible historical and spiritual journey? So subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and share this video with friends who are interested in history and religion. Don't forget to watch the next videos suggested here on the screen to continue learning more about fascinating topics like this. As we look into the past of the tribes of Ishmael and Israel, we realize that their stories are not just about differences, but also about the potential for unity and learning. After all, we are all connected by stories that transcend generations. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.